The Dharma, profound and subtle, seldom met in countless ages, now heard and practiced, maybe realize the Tathagata's truth. For all beings, liberation, generate bodhicitta. Now, we will briefly continue our discussion on the great Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, also known as Arya Nagarjuna, his book titled 100 Verses on Wisdom. This book, 100 Verses on Wisdom, it should be more than 2,000 years. But in terms of its propagation among people, it should be said that it is not as spread like Nagarjuna's letter to a friend or the 6 treatises of Madhyamaka. Compared to these, it simply has not been as widely disseminated. So this time our study could in fact indeed be considered one of the more comprehensive and extensive learning opportunities. There are such cases where sometimes past masters translated these texts, Dharma texts, have already completely disappeared from the world. Some, though texts remain, have just remained on the bookshelf, unknown to people. This is truly a pity. So in the past, in certain treatises by masters of Tibetan Buddhism, I've seen quotes, some maxims from the 100 Verses on Wisdom being cited. As for other texts, there are people who teach them and write commentaries. But for this one, I have never seen that. Even in the works of many great masters today, I've not found it. So this time, as usual, we are also, in this case, following the great sage Bodhisattva Nagarjuna from over 2,000 years ago. Whether you call it a collision of wisdom, we are gradually entering into his way of thinking to obtain teachings that benefit both ourselves and others. Cette intention, thanks to you, who may be busy with studies and other matters. But even after having had quite a lot of delicious dinner in the evening, you might feel a bit sleepy at this time. But if you set aside your precious sleep and your much-needed rest to listen and pay attention, this is truly something to be very grateful for. We have people here, including some volunteers, if they recite scriptures or working before and after to make things convenient for everyone. It's not easy either. I am especially grateful for this as well, because everyone has such an opportunity from causes and conditions. This is not something that I could ever hope to accomplish alone. In fact, creating some of these conditions is not as simple as one might imagine either. Not so simple. So we should be especially grateful and appreciative to everyone around us, taking the time to recognize and value all that they do for us each day. Now, let's continue. Speak frankly without concealment. Act according to your words. Act within your means, and the wise find joy and calm. This verse mainly discusses that when it comes to speaking, in whatever situation, no matter the context, one should be truly upright and sincere at heart. Speak frankly and honestly, with integrity in one's words. When it comes to language here, it doesn't mean you have to reveal absolutely everything that others are thinking or share your private matters with others. That's not what it means. Nowadays, when people talk about being sincere, it means being genuine. But even within sincerity, there are things that can be said and things that cannot be said. Mipham Rinpoche mentions in many of his teachings that one must distinguish situations and objects. Otherwise, if we demand complete sincerity from people, how much money do you have at home in total right now? What is your bank card password, please? And you reveal all your deeply personal and private matters. Unrealistic. Some people may say this to their family members, a significant amount of private money. Not talking about these private secrets is also reasonable. So when we talk about being frank and outspoken here, about speaking openly, it should mean being sincere and reasonable. These are things should be said, and what we say should be beneficial to others. There are some things that may not be appropriate to say in public, and speaking to others or speaking divisive words behind someone's back, these are not good things. Suggestion is, hear it face to face. Some people might feel uncomfortable. It's still necessary to have someone who can give you honest feedback directly. important, especially for prominent figures mentioned yesterday. Whether it's a master or a leader, the more successful they become, the fewer people around them are willing to speak negatively or offer criticism. This includes celebrities. Before they became famous, many people would step on them every day. But once they become especially famous and talented, then all they see are smiling faces, favoring. Other than that, they hardly ever see others' straightforward and direct comments about you. Because of this, at times, many people end up constantly hearing flattery from foolish people around them, and eventually they fall into a deep abyss. This happens often. I used it before. Tang Taizong Li Shimin. There was a minister named Wei Zheng. Li Shimin said, "He is like a mirror for me," because Wei Zheng would often tell him things that might not sound particularly pleasant or enjoyable to hear, at least not at first. Of course, Li Shimin was an enlightened ruler for accepting this. If he had been a tyrant, he might have simply punished him on the spot, because some people are not kind-hearted or they lack magnanimity in their actions. So, for example, when others only say positive things or praise and don't want to hear negativity or directly say something wrong about him, they refuse. So sometimes speaking frankly is extremely important. We also hope that for Buddhists, in their daily communication, I often suggest all hold meetings. If there's anything, say it face to face. When things are said face to face, it resolves many misunderstandings. This is very important. That's first. Then the second aspect is what we need to consider is anything can in general be said to be done or accomplished or completed. Whatever you say, you should truly put it into practice in your actions, making sure to apply it consistently, not just saying nice things, but then doing nothing in reality. That's not how it should be. Once you've made a promise in your actual conduct, you should genuinely fulfill your commitment. Such a person, third, when doing anything, you should act according to your own abilities and take all aspects into consideration, acting within your means. It's not about overestimating yourself and forcing your way through everything, only to find yourself with no way out in the end. And having delayed everything, that's not the way. A wise person knows their limits and acts. Once you've made a promise, whatever difficulties you face, you must do it. If you really can do it, you shouldn't agree to everything in advance. Yes, some foolish people agree to everything, but end up accomplishing nothing. This kind of behavior is also very bad. So, as I just mentioned earlier, if someone is upright in their speech and very reliable in their actions and acts per their abilities, then this person should always live in peace and have a good life. Whatever they do, they have a sense of propriety, making decisions with wisdom rather than blindly, or simply acting out of a particularly impulsive mood. Agreeing to this, and that especially when, for example, some of us are young or have not yet matured, we make many mistakes in life, in old age, or sometimes only in middle age do we realize, when I had just graduated from school or when I had just entered society for the very first time, what I did before, even I can't quite accept them now. They were a bit too naive. Thinking back, it was really unreasonable. Some of the conflicts that I had with other people at the time, in hindsight, were really not worth it at all. Some of our fellow practitioners later left, or when someone dies, they start to pretend to cry. When working together, there's often exclusion. Especially among women, it's common to see this because of jealousy or for other reasons. In speech and actions, in many ways, people are often not very sincere. There are various kinds of issues. Many people are used to this watching movies and TV. Our lives have already been carefully squeezed into this kind of structured framework. So perhaps many behaviors are performed just like acting in a play in the secular world. But in the end, when you become more mature, recall intent. I was constantly scheming and competing with this person every day, which now seems very foolish and unnecessary. Because the time we have together is actually really very short. Then it was as if, due to our own ignorance and foolishness, our actions came from that ignorance and foolishness. Looking back now, I really regret it. This happens. So if a person truly does, always keeps their word and reliably acts within their means, such a person will also live a very happy life. There will be no real regrets or shortcomings in their life. This is really very important. Next, noble conduct cannot be harmed by wicked people, just as a precious lamp once lit cannot be extinguished by a raging wind. For those of us with relatively noble character, they have behaviors, but many of these actions might not be accepted by others. When spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings, or when they have gained wealth and their reputation spreads worldwide, at such times, there will be some people around them who are either on equal footing with them or in some form of competition with them. These people feel their hearts are being cut by a knife. It is painful for them, or they simply cannot accept it. No reason they harm this person, and for no reason they start to attack them verbally or use other methods or means to deliberately cause them injury or harm. This is a rule of the human world. His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok later, and it is mentioned in our journey to the West. For example, if there are two abbots from different temples, they may also feel some jealousy toward each other. Between two with spiritual, there are also all kinds of issues between them. Leaders, if one is promoted and the other is not, the one who is left behind will be burning with anxiety. He will then create all sorts of problems. So generally speaking, even for noble people, actions aren't smooth. The deeds of truly noble people are like a lotus rising clean from mud, pure, spotless, but people in the world do not all acknowledge this. The more pure and noble you truly are, the more others just can't stand it. Some will even insult you with all kinds of false information online or in all sorts of various and different sources of information. And sometimes some things that are dug up, some of these things may be true, but some things are even fabricated through computers and various means, such as creating and producing all kinds of different images, as well as various types of audio, because with artificial intelligence, anything can be easily obtained. In such times, sorts of situations arise. However, a noble person may be neither harmful nor self-serving, and if they happen to possess such abilities in any way, or wisdom, spiritual attainment, they face it directly. I've talked about this several times before. There was a Zen master named Hakuin, and a woman nearby who, after giving birth to someone else's child, afraid parents wouldn't accept it, later she claimed that the child belonged to the master. When he was insulted and slandered like this, he didn't react much, just said, "Is that so?" Afterwards, in order to raise the child, he went everywhere begging for alms, what to look for exactly. That time there wasn't formula milk, various dairy products. During this time when many people were slandering him, he still responded the same way, saying, "Is that so?" Later, after a year, the woman came to her senses and apologized. Her parents apologized. He still just said that same phrase. Of course, people like this possess a noble state of mind. They are people of a high level of realization. Generally speaking, we may not be able to emulate them. But no matter what, if someone truly has noble conduct, whether it's a villain, a non-human, or a demon, there's no way for them to take advantage, and they might not be able to cause any harm. Of course, some people might pretend to have noble conduct or from karma in past lives. In that case, the power of the villain might be extremely strong. Didn't we mention the wish-fulfilling jewel, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, who even in front of Guru Padmasambhava was truly a Vajra subduer of demons, an accomplished master when uncovering the hidden treasures, if one person created obstacles, then none of these important things could ever truly be accomplished or achieved in the end. Not at all. Looking at the histories of some great masters, sometimes a very insignificant person, just because of that person was weak, small in stature, and unattractive in appearance, and not actually good at speaking at all, even when facing a master like the wish-fulfilling jewel, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, if someone blocked him, unimaginable. But sometimes when the conditions are not quite right, when conditions and causes lack, then even a particularly weak and insignificant person can become an obstacle to great monks and masters, or to some historical figures on their path and journey ahead. They can become a stumbling block or even a major hindrance. This does happen. History shows such cases, and in our own lives and experiences, we often see and hear about such things as well in our daily lives. This analogy refers to the precious lamp. As for the precious lamp, in the past, it might have been a precious lamp like a luminous pearl, or nowadays, it could be electric lights, not like butter lamps or others, that can be blown out by a strong wind. So about our electric lights today, no matter how strong the wind is, unless there is some major issue, especially with the national power grids across regions, these are quite reliable. You could call them precious lamps. Generally, a strong wind cannot easily extinguish them. So in reality as well, using this analogy, in the time of Nagarjuna, precious lamps. But these precious lamps were not like those small oil lamps that you might see elsewhere that would be extinguished immediately by a strong, sudden gust of wind. They were simply not like that. In the same way, noble conduct sometimes cannot be harmed, even by absolutely ordinary evildoers. That is the meaning here. Why would a noble person stoop to lowly place, like a fire in a cold forest, brought to ruin by bad company? It is said that people who are wise and noble, or those who are refined and pure, or virtuous gentlemen with wisdom, can also end up in a rather particularly pitiable and lowly state. In the end, why does this happen though? In fact, it is because these people carelessly rely on bad friends, making bad friends. It is like a fire in a cold forest in our world. There are two meanings. One is that a cold forest is usually in the charnel grounds, those Solomon haunting places in ancient India. Most of them are mainly located in forests. For example, there are cold charnel grounds and also cool charnel burial grounds, such as those found in certain traditions near woods. If a fire breaks out around them, it becomes frightening. Or in everyday life, in novels and movies, there are often stories about terrifying, ghostly fires. Example situation, just like a fire in a cold forest, a frightening bad friend, once you rely on a bad friend, it ultimately leads to your current situation. This is really how we humans are. Circumstances, or perhaps the karma from our past lives, or maybe just our own simple carelessness, we may encounter things. It's just like in the animal world, as you may have already noticed, where some zebras or some kelvis perhaps, after a long and difficult journey through the wild, where every step brings them closer to danger, same situation. No matter how much you struggle in the end, there's simply no way to turn things around at all. Situations like this are actually, in fact, very common in real life. I know a monk, he spent a long time in college. Later, he returned to lay life. And after that, eventually, after a while, eventually, he had 2 children with that woman in total. After time, that woman ran off with someone else. He had to raise 2 children alone. It was tough. Later they went to court, and the two children were eventually split up. After the split, he raised the older one, and the other person raised the younger one. Later, he sent that very young child to a reputable and good school. His circumstances and health weren't good. Just after recently finishing college, only a short while ago, ignored him. He left with mom. Last year, he got sick, and no one could take care of him. Of course, his ex-wife wouldn't care about him. In the end, people talked about how pitiful he was in all sorts of ways. Most of his relatives and friends distanced themselves from him. I also tried to help him privately, since we used to know each other. So sometimes it's really truly the case that a person in the past, in all aspects of life, including, for example, things like going abroad and so on, was someone with a lot of virtue, ability, and wisdom. But in the very end, maybe he was regretful, but there was nothing he could do. So when people rely on bad friends, whether they're male or female bad friends, especially for us now as pure monastics, indeed, rely right knowledge, mindfulness, guard your root. Otherwise, once you regret it, there's really nothing you can do about it. Or by the time you realize it, it's already too late for regret. There are cases like this. So the Agama Sutras also say, one should not associate with fools, nor engage in affairs with fools, nor discuss or even attempt to debate what is right and what is wrong with them. That is to say, generally, people with wisdom should never meet with those who are foolish fools. Don't do things together or talk about it with him, especially not gossip about right and wrong with them. Gossip of right, wrong, including all sorts of matters related to yourself. Don't. If you do, they will seek an opportunity, just like in the story of Mr. Dongo, or when the opportunity arises, they won't have any sense of so-called conscience or belief in karma. They won't have any of that. So at that point, even if you regret it, in the end, it still won't do any good. Therefore, first and foremost, you should have a certain degree of wisdom. If you lack wisdom and rely on bad friends, in the end, you will also regret it yourself. Because if you rely on bad friends, in fact, everything about you, your memories, your personality, your experiences, and everything that defines you will be destroyed completely, leaving nothing of you behind. As mentioned in the Prajnaparamita Sutra in 6 Paramitas, it mentions unwise company corrupts good people. Like fire burning dry wood, one should always keep away from them. If you near people without wisdom, then it will corrupt your mind. And your thoughts, just like fire burning dry wood, in the end, you will absolutely be left with nothing at all, completely and utterly. Many people around us, because they relied on some bad friends who led them astray, including some entrepreneurs. He collaborated with some bad people for a period of time. In the very end, everything is completely gone, and ultimately they are left with absolutely nothing at all. Then there are some monastics, some of whom relied on bad friends, and all their precepts, concentration and wisdom were destroyed in an instant. Such cases exist. So for those with right understanding and right mindfulness, first of all, simply do not go to bad places. No one will directly lead you to a bad place. First, I want to take you to a very bad place. That won't happen. In the very beginning, it's always just sweet talk, all kinds of alluring behaviors and words to tempt you. At that time, you can't see any danger at all. It's just like a hunter in the world. Before he hunts, he gently and softly plays a beautiful melodious tune on the pipa. While the wild animal is completely absorbed in listening, the skilled hunter carefully begins to shoot the animal with his bow and arrow. Some bad friends do it intentionally, while others do it unintentionally, because when all sorts of negative causes and conditions come together, the final outcome is extremely tragic. So as people, we know some principles theoretically, but when karmic forces arise, we are completely powerless, with no freedom at all. In the end, without even realizing it, we've already ended up in that place. this kind of situation really does happen. If you haven't yet perhaps come to rely on these bad friends, you must be cautious in advance. Because in Buddhism, these kinds of bad friends never abandon sentient beings. But if you are not a bodhisattva at a certain level, then you must keep your distance from bad friends. When we studied the practices of a bodhisattva last year, everyone should have had a rather profound experience of this.
Cunning ones speak softly, uncareful, not trusted. The peacock makes beautiful sounds, yet consumes deadly poison. There are some rather cunning people like this, Although these people may in fact speak in a gentle manner with kind words, using mild language that sounds especially pleasant and gentle, if they started out by speaking harsh or malicious words to you, then you wouldn't be deceived, because at the very beginning, people talk to each other with intention or without intention. There is a process of mutual adjustment. During this time, the language used is always very gentle. But before you have observed carefully, you simply must not trust them. If you do actually trust them, you will end up regretting it. Smooth talk, looks rarely show true kindness. This is what the ancients used to say as well. Among those individuals who are exceptionally eloquent and incredibly attractive, very few are truly compassionate. Just because someone speaks nicely and looks good and is appealing in many ways, it doesn't necessarily mean they have good character. Their true nature in reality is not actually that noble. So although they may appear gentle, you need to observe them repeatedly. If you don't observe carefully, it can be very dangerous in the end. He gives an analogy. For example, we often talk about peacocks. Peacocks are also, without a doubt, very beautiful, and the sounds they make are especially pleasant.
There
is an identical saying in the Sakya aphorisms. There is, in fact, an identical saying, just as you might expect. The sound of the peacock is also very pleasant to the ear, and it appears especially beautiful and attractive. But what it eats is highly poisonous. Here, the highly poisonous things may not mean pesticides we mentioned, or dangerous or toxic man-made poisons, including various potentially harmful substances and chemicals. Generally speaking, peacocks often eat poisonous snakes, centipedes, and toxic plants. Not only do these not harm the peacock's body in any way, nor do they cause any damage whatsoever, it even has a kind of detoxifying organ, and through this, its feathers immediately become even more dazzling, gorgeous, and truly magnificent. Its voice becomes even more resonant. Generally, in our poetic tradition, the peacock is associated with the thunder in the sky and the sound of dragons. There is a certain connection between dragons and peacocks. Many poets say, when your Dharma voice is like a dragon's roar, the peacock joyfully dances in delight. There are all kinds of metaphors like this. But here, the main point is, some words may sound gentle to us, but in reality, perhaps the good friend, the one you truly trusted, you had back in those days, in the end, is actually the one who truly represents a fatal threat to you. In our world today, there are many people who work together, some very good friends, including brothers, but in the end, they all eventually end up turning on each other and ultimately fighting among themselves. All kinds of deep, festering hatred arise, and the grudges in turn become truly and utterly terrifying in the end, ultimately. Actually, this kind of thing also occurs or takes place in the world in real. His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok has also said before that monastics must be careful not to rely on people who seem to be good to you on the surface. Otherwise, at a certain point, you may end up in a truly pitiful situation. At that time, that close friend, not only will you no longer miss them, but they may even become the person you hate most in your heart. This is possible. So first and foremost, in particular, we should be careful. Of course, some people have ulterior motives. First, as we often say, they may hide a dagger behind a smile or have honeyed words, but a sword in their heart. They seem nice, but in reality, they are harboring resentment all along. This situation exists. So no matter what we are learning right now is wisdom. Wisdom applies to all relationships between people, how humans and nature relate, as well as the occurrence of any significant events that may occur in our lives. There is a certain distinct and recognizable pattern in the development and eventual conclusion of all these things. We need to understand these patterns, and if we can analyze them ourselves, not only analyze but also put them into practice, then we are wise people. So, as we mentioned at the beginning, the 100 verses on wisdom is about wisdom. Let us open our wisdom. We often say, please bless me all the time. Recite the Manjushri mantra for me. I want to gain some wisdom. Tap my head for me, and so on. But the most important thing is, perhaps when it comes to these teachings on humanity and culture, we should reflect on them repeatedly. If I talk about them, whether you are willing to listen or not, maybe you will gain something from it, but you really should have the wisdom to truly learn these teachings on character. Then in your future actions, you will improve yourself. Next, let's talk about this. A wise person treats even enemies like close relatives, remaining calm, like the vast. This means that a wise person treats even those who hate them just like they would thoughtfully treat their own family members. Because their mind is extremely calm and vast, just like the ocean, he will not be hindered by some evil people to immediately bear a grudge, which is a phrase we often use to describe someone who quickly becomes resentful or holds on to negative. A gentleman takes revenge. Once there was a young monk who got into a fight with another monk. A gentleman's revenge is not late after 10 years. At the door, I was very angry, so I used my prayer beads to lightly hit him. Later, it seemed that I had hit his body and a few bumps appeared. I really regretted it. But then he said it was fine. It really didn't hurt. He said he wouldn't speak harsh words again. I said, you are here to study gentleman's revenge is never too late after 10 years. Do you have the same mindset when it comes to repaying kindness? I also said a few things at the time. So we often say that some gentlemen or wise people, even if someone truly harms or in any circumstance endangers them, they don't respond with an eye for an eye and almost immediately seek revenge. But it's really not like that. They should use their tolerance or face it with a very calm, steady mindset, taking a moment to pause and collect your thoughts. Of course, it simply means he doesn't seek revenge against them. But if a truly resentful enemy poses a real threat to him, he should have his own precautions or a sense of self-protection. As a wise person, he would definitely, without a doubt, have that. Otherwise, if there is a person who is truly your enemy and genuinely intends to cause you harm or injury, regardless, and is always harboring malicious intent toward you, it would be very difficult for you to treat him as your own family member. That would be very hard. We say a wildcat can never really be the cutest pet, in my opinion, because everyone in particular, regardless career, health, or any aspect of their life, whether there is simply any harm or not, if there is simply no harm, they can simply remain calm. If no harm and there are benefits, they will usually rely on that person more often than not. This is a general rule. Wise people are the same way. In the past, our respected teacher was like this too. Whether he was traveling abroad or at the academy itself, perhaps toward those who harmed him or who slandered him, he never at any point did anything, not a single thing, to take revenge. Such things truly never happened. Mahayana Bodhisattva differs from what is taught in the standards for being a good student and child, in standards for being a good student and child as well. It says that one should remember kindness received and quickly forget all hatred. Confucianism teaches this. So His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok is like this indeed. But generally speaking, he is special, including the overall health of his body, or to his safety and overall well-being, whether it's the trusted gatekeepers or bodyguards. They are all extremely vigilant. This aspect does exist. Here, everyone is a Vajradharma friend to one another, and truly becoming enemies, such a possibility basically does not exist, especially regardless of who it is, no matter who the person may be, whether toward a Vajra guru or causing harm to Vajradharma friends, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Dharma friends, gurus, may not seek obvious revenge, but whether or not vows have been broken, this is something one must examine for oneself. In the distant past, during earlier times, when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok was actively and thoughtfully reforming Buddhism, then such things happened in Tibet. Because during the Cultural Revolution, people faced criticism, but later that guru not only did not hold any resentment in any way, but also afterwards, nothing happened. There was nothing at all against me. But His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok said, if nothing happened to this guru because of me, it means he is a great bodhisattva. It doesn't necessarily mean that no vows were broken. Later, during reform, then even in our own monastery, there was a person who had previously been criticized before during struggle sessions. The guru later said to him, I have absolutely nothing against you. But later, during one occasion, at a great Kalachakra empowerment, although there had been no issues between them afterwards, when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok reportedly learned about this matter later over the loudspeaker, the first character of his name was just announced. They reportedly participated, and it would be best for this person not to attend the Vajrayana empowerment. Otherwise, there might be certain consequences. So this person later went to another Dharma center. At the other center, he still eventually became a Dharma teacher. He served as a Dharma teacher in other centers as well. Now, both that guru and he himself have passed away. So sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, Vajra brothers and sisters really, truly, absolutely do need to be very mindful of this. Otherwise, even if others no longer care whether one has broken the Vajrayana vows or Samaya, these things are not for people to decide. Everyone should be able to read the texts. When it comes to the texts, we all have wisdom. Whether something is broken or confession is needed, we should pay attention to these matters ourselves. Otherwise, in this world, people have their own ways of doing things, especially since we have received so many empowerments. Many people want empowerments. This is very good. When we hold empowerment, it stays confidential. Otherwise, there would be too many people. But sometimes I feel this is actually very good. One truly has faith in the Vajrayana teachings. If no one attended our empowerments, that would be a real sorrow for us Buddhists. So every time many people come, I also feel a bit reluctant. Empowerment can't give is it possible to give them a different empowerment? Their faith, their efforts are indeed truly not easy. They travel mountains. When they reach the door, they can't get in. There are so many difficulties now. Whether it's accommodation or daily habits, if they come here for the empowerment with such intention, it's truly extremely rare in one's lifetime. Sometimes, even though I'm not present myself, I'm still truly very moved by their stories. For example, riding motorcycles, there are all kinds of stories. Everyone is, in a sense, like Tang Seng, traveling west on a long and arduous journey to earnestly seek out the sacred scriptures, each with their own story. After arriving, no one complains. They are all overjoyed, feeling that they have gained something truly special this time. It's like returning with a full harvest. Everyone is especially happy. Actually, this shows that each of us has faith. Otherwise, when you get there, if you are used to a comfortable life in your own city and everything is going well for you, who would be willing to go there and endure hardship? I think this is really wonderful. So sometimes I hesitate to let too many people come. Otherwise, it would be necessary to transmit secret teachings and bodhicitta to all. But after we receive them, if we don't preserve them well, in this case, this milk is good. If not handled, it'll spoil. So I think everyone should really, whether in terms of how we regard and interact with our Vajra friends, or in many other aspects, we can't say for sure who is truly a bad person and who is a wise one. Someone seems bad person, kind of These may be Buddha or Bodhisattva forms. Someone teaches Dharma daily, but whether that person is truly wise is hard to say. Mara King sits on the Dharma throne and teaches others. So it's very difficult to distinguish between the wise and the wicked. But it's usually best to analyze this for yourself. Many of us are good at talking about others, saying this person is bad, that one is good, but we never really evaluate ourselves, at least not as much as we should. And if we do, it's only superficially. We don't truly use the Buddhist scriptures and treatises as a measure. This is unfortunate, and many people are like this. They judge others talking about them. But if you turn around and ask yourself, am I a bad person or a wise one? Or am I a kind person? Or what kind of person am I really? If others judge you, you probably won't feel happy about it either. Better to self-evaluate. In fact, self-supervision is often emphasized in Buddhism. Self-awareness is very important. People say this, self-criticism and self-supervision are very important. If you are always looking outward and never looking within, you still won't be able to see all your own faults. So it's best to define yourself for yourself. We can't rely on a manager daily or for others to say you are bad or you are good. Even if they do, you might not accept labels. Next, let's talk about this. Whoever has foresight is free from anger and heedlessness, diligent, steady, and unperturbed, will always be protected by the gods. No matter who, if they have a far-reaching vision and can see the bigger picture, and if they are not quick-tempered and don't get angry easily, then their character is very good. Some people simply don't like to get angry, while others might seem like incarnations of venomous snakes, getting angry at the slightest provocation. Among us Tibetans, there's a saying, person is angry. Someone actually said, you were just here. Just that one sentence can make them angry. You're here, and they immediately, almost reflexively, get upset. But if someone is not easily angered, not careless, and is especially self-disciplined, practicing virtuous deeds often, and is especially diligent in pursuing good actions, with a personality that is steady and not scattered, if someone possesses such a character, then the auspicious guardian deities and heavenly beings are always by your side, faithfully and quietly protecting you at every single moment, always watching over you. Whether visible or invisible, they are constantly watching over you. I remember in the treatise on the modes of being, it says that all these heavenly deities and protectors can reside within a pure body and mind. Therefore, we should cleanse our own body and mind and arrange offerings of virtuous deeds as the proper way. If you do this, even if you don't deliberately make offerings or pray every day, then it will be like seagulls slowly and gracefully gathering by the sea, just as before, quietly in the gentle breeze, or like bees gathering in a garden. If a person possesses such qualities, all the war gods, deities, guardians, and earth gods will always protect you. With the protection of these deities, indeed, if you're one person, you can accomplish the work of thousands upon thousands. In fact, the protection of the Dharma protectors is extremely important. Sometimes you can feel it, sometimes you can't. That also happens. Sometimes when people do good deeds, every now and then, Dharma protectors respond to you in various ways and also offer you protection. The other day, I saw something about Han Hong. She had a car accident while doing charity work. Of course, her accident may have been a few years ago, years. But just recently, while I was browsing the news online, I happened to come across a story about her in which she was making a statement. While she went to do charity work, she had a car accident on the highway when it happened. It seemed that the car, after losing control, slowly rolled down to a depth of 6 meters and kept tumbling continuously over and over again. In the end, even the glasses that she was wearing, they weren't damaged at all. But she had a feeling that about 2 seconds before the car flipped, the sensation as if something was telling her. I don't remember exactly. I just skimmed through it at the time. Someone told her to wear a seatbelt for safety. She immediately fastened her seatbelt. Car flipped. I don't think she said it was the Dharma protectors. Maybe she also likes to do some charity work, perhaps. So at that moment, Was it the Dharma protectors who prompted her to do these things? In our dream dust in India, a land of vibrant culture and tradition, we also talked about some related Dharma protectors. Sometimes Dharma protectors are truly rare. One day in June, I dreamed between dreaming and when I woke up in the morning, some Dharma protectors came and said, "You have so much alcohol, why don't you make offerings?" Later, I asked the people around me if there was any alcohol. When they searched, they still found a case of alcohol. Then I thought maybe I should make an offering soon. But at that time, I wasn't feeling well and forgot for days. Sometimes we really do need to. Dharma protector is important because my body and mind are pure. Don't make offerings inappropriate. You need to refresh your body and mind. That's important. Sometimes we often offer to the Dharma protectors. When we make offerings to the Dharma protectors, many obstacles truly just disappear. The power of the Dharma protectors surpasses that of many people. So for myself, I have many experiences in this area, responses or illusions. I've had quite a lot of them, but I never talk about these things in class, not to my students, and I don't mention them to people in my diary, or sometimes I simply jot them down just for myself. Maybe in the future there will be some, but the Dharma protectors really do exist. I am still absolutely, truly convinced of this. When reciting some articles about the Dharma protectors, suddenly my body would start trembling, and I wondered why. It turned out that certain Dharma protectors, their stories were recited. Anyway, there are many such things. This isn't some kind of superstition, nor is it just hearsay from others. Indeed, if a person is truly upright, then heavenly deities and Dharma protectors are like humans. For example, if someone is farsighted and has a good temper, they do things well, are diligent, not scattered, and steady. Such people are highly sought after and valued by every department. This kind of person is definitely in high demand. They get things done and never cause trouble. This person is truly very important. If they leave, everyone will be very sad. For example, if a good person leaves a class, the teachers could cry for 3 days and nights. But if a bad person leaves, the teachers might laugh for 3 days and 3 nights it's possible. Many people become the kind of person they choose to be in their lives. In general, we ultimately shape ourselves. The Dharma protectors treat this person the same way. If one gives joyfully without, it is like a renowned poet whose good reputation spreads throughout the world. If a person does not seek rewards in this life or karmic results in the next, and wholeheartedly practices Dharma giving, whether it is Dharma giving or material giving, then giving becomes a joyful act for everyone. A leader once said, as long as there's to give, everyone likes to get, irrespective of whether they are able to use it or not for their own needs or requirements, in any case. Take, for example, the elder Anathapindika from the past. Why is he still so famous today, really? It was because he loved to practice generosity, so he loved to give about loving to give. The prerequisite is you need something to give. If he had no Dharma in mind, or if he had no wealth in his hands at all, if he wanted to give, there'd be no way. However, if one is able to give, this is extremely important, really. For example, Emperor Wu of Liang at that time, he said, I have given countless offerings and also built countless temples. At that time, Patriarch Bodhidharma said, you are attached, I have no karmic connection with you. Then he went to Shaolin Temple and meditated facing the wall for 9 years. At the very beginning, their unique karmic connection, for some reason, just didn't quite seem to align, at least not right away. But in fact, someone like Emperor Wu of Liang, from a worldly perspective, his giving, offering to the higher and helping those below was notable, including in our Tibetan history, Jime Khenden. Nowadays, these stories are often performed. We did it once before. The story of King Jaime Gendenhi gave away everything. Stories like that of Prince Yicheng as well. These are very famous locally. It's like really poets, those who are especially good at writing poetry are very well known. But in this era now, poets aren't famous. Wealthy people internet celebrities, the so-called influencers, who are also very skilled at selling things online. These people are more famous. No matter your poetry is, it doesn't matter. Nowadays, in our modern world, it's actually pretty easy, or rather relatively straightforward, for AI to write all sorts of poems and articles. In China, people like Li Bai and Du Fu, they were all truly very famous. In modern times, those who write poetry aren't very well known. But back when Nagarjuna was around, maybe people actually placed quite a lot of importance on literature. At that time, masters like Ashvaghosha, including those individuals who composed notable literary works, such as Praise of the Devas of the Supreme Victory, were also renowned poets. They were famous in the world at that time. If you like to practice generosity, of course, everyone will be very happy. So when we often give everyone something like a prayer wheel or maybe something else, if you genuinely want to gain a good reputation, well, it's actually quite easy to achieve. Can I please get another one or just take one more? It seems like people are never satisfied. If someone gets a large prayer wheel, can I actually win the medium-sized prayer wheel, maybe if possible? If a medium-sized prayer wheel is received, can I have a small one? They ask one small one too. There are times in life when, even though we want to help others or give something of ourselves, we find that the act of giving can actually be who is like the king's servant, able to follow instructions obediently, like a precious jewel in the vast ocean. All wishes are met. No matter what person, if one wishes to become like a servant to the king, listening to every word and following every instruction, then such a person is truly like a rare and precious jewel, like a truly precious radiant jewel in the vast shimmering ocean. As long as you pray to it, you can get anything you wish. Similarly, if a person is especially obedient, especially towards their ruler or their teacher, and treats them with respect, they will also receive a certain response. He got what he wanted. In the end, he indeed ultimately achieved his goal. Many of our volunteers have good relations with those above them, and also cooperate well with those below them. People like this, it's true that almost everyone really likes, genuinely appreciates and admires people like this. In the past, many Khenpos and Khenmos would often keep volunteers each year without changing them. I would say, why don't you maybe switch people? Why is it always just one or two people like this? It's because this person is obedient and diligent and also very, very efficient in getting things done. No matter which group of people is rotated in, they are the ones doing things. This is related to one's character. It really does have something to do with it. Including some people assisting our Dharma teachers. No matter which Dharma teacher they are with, they do very well. But some people are not like this. They get along well with one person, but if you switch them to someone else, for example, they feud. They might even become quite antagonistic. This is possible. Actually, no matter what you do in front of others, practice. This is truly the Buddhist way of doing things. For example, in the Maharatnakuta Sutra at that time, the Buddha also, when the Buddha was still on the path of training, whether others asked him to pull weeds or dig the ground, milk cows, fetch water, or gather fire, he was really willing to do any kind of work. The Maharatnakuta Sutra mentions this. He offered his own body to sentient beings, serving as a servant for worldly people. He served others and remained humble. When the Buddha was on the path of training, he served as a servant for worldly people, but he would gladly follow whoever called him first. As long as someone called him first, whoever called his name first, he would go joyfully and happily, truly, without a second word. He never set any conditions like, if you give me this, I ask you, please, if you would, to just do this right now. There was never bargaining or setting conditions. So in our Mahayana Buddhism, to serve as a servant to sentient beings means having no airs at all. Directly doing anything, especially in front of sentient beings, even becoming an ox or a horsem of our practitioners with great resolve, happy to clean toilets if asked. They are as willing to sweep the Dharma hall. Cleaning toilets is simple. From a worldly perspective, something hard for people to accept. But some people can just as easily be a sitting on the Dharma throne in a dignified manner as well too. There is no arrogance or sense of self-importance. If there were arrogance, they definitely wouldn't be willing. I will do the things I want to do, and I won't do the things I don't want to do. But here, it's not like that. If it were, you would actually end up getting everything you want because you don't put on airs and you're willing to do it. In the end, eventually, everyone will accept you. So as people, I really hope that everyone can be a good person. It's especially joyful to first receive an empowerment, and that's very good. Empowerments are all very precious. However, if our foundation is too weak, it's like building on ice. Everything will melt away and come to nothing. In the end, we just create a heap of karma. And if we leave in such a sorry state, it's a bit of a pity. So it's better to first be a good person. That's very important. Do not do what should not be done, and all your wishes will be fulfilled. If you stay away from objects of greed, who among the wise would not respect you? He doesn't do things that shouldn't be done, such as killing, stealing, lying, and works to fulfill the hopes and wishes of others. And also staying away from objects that arouse your own greed whenever it is at all possible. For someone, one thing is to act in accordance with the Dharma, and another is to fulfill others' needs, and also not to be too selfish yourself, really. If you're always greedy, always trying to take advantage for yourself, always wanting everything for yourself, then for people like this, others definitely won't want to accept you. No matter how wise you are, truly wise, no matter how good looking you are, even if your eloquence is like that of the great logician Dharmakirti, or your skills are exceptionally good, no matter what it is, just like we mentioned earlier, as we know, no one really wants to acquire wealth that is associated with any kind of risk or danger. If others do not accept you for who you are, I believe there must certainly be some reason on your part, without any doubt. We often say there's something detestable about those who are pitiful. If many people distance themselves from you, if many people reject you, on one hand, it might be that others do not recognize your good qualities. That's possible during special periods in the many great monks became targets for everyone to attack. Cases happened, but in most cases, it's because of one's own actions and speech and behavior that cause this. Others simply won't accept you. No one likes this kind of person. So, as we know, people with noble character who act in accordance with the Dharma and do their best to satisfy others, who have no particular desires and live simply in any department we are in, take a look at yourselves. This is like looking in the mirror, not at others. Look for yourself who I am in the department. You refrain from doing things you shouldn't do. I try not to let your selfishness become too strong. Don't be too arrogant or conceited. If you do this, any wise person will certainly respect you and treat you especially well. Let me talk about one more point. Do not abandon the teachings and rules out of arrogance because of your skills. Even the very finest, expertly crafted horn bow is rendered completely useless in battle without a string. Some people have a particular skill. One has a merit and then become arrogant because of it. They abandon all the worldly and spiritual teachings and rules, give up everything, absolutely everything right now. You may end up being quite unsuccessful in the end, after all. I hope everyone truly understands this point. Some of us might be skilled, some are especially eloquent speakers. Some people are good looking. Well, some may have a little more wealth. In any case, everyone has some advantage compared to others, some merit or virtue of their own. But if you become arrogant for this, looking down on everyone, ignoring and dismissing others, in such a situation, you really will not amount to much. Ideally, you should let go of all arrogance. And if you do so, you will truly achieve something. Wasn't it the case that Zheng Guofan used to be very arrogant at first and rather immature? Later, when he went to many places, he suffered a lot because of this. No one accepts it. He read many books and also met various people and learned from their experiences. As a result, he eventually became very successful as a person. There are others like this as well. who in the end underwent a truly remarkable and complete transformation and became entirely new people. So as we discuss the 100 verses on wisdom, I'm not asking you to look at others, to judge everyone else. When I myself am personally translating, when I'm studying or teaching, I reflect on myself. Many things are wrong, not about others. It's likely caused by myself. If I were truly good, some things are karma, but for the most part, the reasons lie with myself. It says arrogant people, for example, right now, at this point in time, I might have actually translated just a bit more than others, so I might become arrogant for this. Or because of some particular trait I have, because of this, I become quite arrogant myself. Others may not surpass you in this particular area, but in other aspects, they might outshine you, yet you don't pay any attention to that. This is the kind of ignorance we humans have. Many people, some leaders are arrogant because their status is slightly higher. Some wealthy people are arrogant because they have a bit more money. Some people are better looking because they're younger, they're very arrogant. Some people are arrogant over a luxury car. Everyone has their own special skill or talent, and they feel proud of it. But in reality, actually, this is just a truly very insignificant, flawed kind of wealth. If you become arrogant because of this, even in some areas, we might have a little bit of value ourselves. That's possible, and we can put on a show in front of others for a day or two. But this is a narrow-minded, ignorant behavior. In the future, I hope that each of us won't refuse to accept others' teachings out of arrogance. Otherwise, it's like having a truly fine, beautiful wooden bow. When we herded cattle, we often use this wood to make bows. But if you have a bow without a string, well, it's basically useless, isn't it? If you want to shoot an arrow, you must have both a bow and a string. Only then can you truly shoot an arrow successfully. In the same way, if you are very arrogant, even if you have some merits like a bow, without the string, without other moral qualities, whatever you do, you will ultimately end up a failure. So everyone should also, in this way, frequently reflect, inwardly mainly reflect on your own mind. Ask yourself, if you are like this, after all, we are all human, and at the very least we should endeavor to learn to resemble that as best we can. Maybe I'm the lowest level, don't know. Many of you should have studied for at least a dozen years. I myself haven't even studied for 10 years. At that time, my academic level was probably very low. Since you've studied so much, you should be able to reflect on yourself, right? But most of our education, in fact, is just a really very basic kind of knowledge. Simply put, this can't really be considered wisdom either. So everyone should still, without exception, use this method to observe themselves. All right, let's take a short break. Then we'll take a look at the A Journey to the Wests.
Sonam dei tamse thobanya tonani de jana pase kirgana jirano chupai jupun zonen droa droa
ma bandangara badna asadarda ma bandangara badna asadarda Bandangara Banma Sadarda